Moving on with today's agenda, we have a panel discussion on catching them young. I would like to call upon Ms. Kavita Sukhani, Principal, Seven Rivers International School on stage, Ms. Parveen Shaikh, Principal, Somaiya School, Ms. Tehzeeb Khurana, Founder, Toon Club. A big round of applause, please, for all the ladies. And the session is being moderated by Mr. Srinivas Sribhakta, CEO, Vedatma Animation Studios, Director, Arena Animation, Malleswaram and Rajajinagar, Bengaluru, and Secretary ABAI.
Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's nice to see all of you still active and awake after a heavy lunch. So, welcome back. Well, I think this is one of the best sessions to be in. We're talking about catching them young. So, I think we've got one of the best panels of the day. So, we have some really, senior and really the women who have made it big in the field of catching them young. So, I think we should start with saying that we are done with celebrating the past and we are experiencing the present. Now is the time to awaken the future. So I think we have the ladies here who would help us awaken the future of our country, the future of our education system, and how to catch them young in creative field. So I would like to start with a very simple question. Very simple. We are in 2022. Imagine that you are not the principals or heads of whatever you are right now. You are in your 5th and 6th standard. And you want to pursue a career or you want to pursue creative arts. So how would you convince your parents? How would you convince your teachers? And what would be your stand?
So
I'll start with probably Tehzeeb. You can start, or Kavita.
So I just want to clarify. You're saying today if we were in 5th and 6th standard? Yeah, I think today if you're in 5th and 6th standard, it's not difficult at all. You can just tell your parents, this is what I want to do. And parents know that, okay, there is like, yes, go for it. I don't think there's been a time better for the arts, because if you see most of the classes kids go to are all arts related. So kids would get, parents do that. I don't know if the parents, it's different because parents might take it seriously or not, but they would say, okay, go for it. I think that's important. And if that happens, that's good. Because children at that age would come with ideas and say, okay, we want to do this. And mostly parents would say, okay, let's give it a try. That's what my exposure to the kind of parents I have experienced has been. So very positive that way.
Tehzeeb, what do you add to this?
I still believe there is a large section of parents. I still believe there's a large section of parents that still are not really receptive to the idea of art and creativity and music, dance, whatever, theater, everything under arts. So they still feel that, my kids should eventually take up either science or engineering or become a CA. So that mindset, it's still there. It hasn't gone. So it will still be a challenge if the child says, I want to pursue it as a career. So that is still there. And
still a tough one.
Very
still
much.
A tough one. Parveen.
So I was sharing it with them when we were chatting casually. I wanted to become an artist. I would go and touch the walls of JJ School of Art because I wanted to become an artist. But after 12th standard, when I approached my parents, they said, what will you do becoming an artist? Because in those days, the mindset was that we had the image of artists with jhola, bare feet, no money, which is changing. I'm very glad it is changing. And in today's day and time, we find art in every aspect of our life. Wherever you go, you are facing art in some form or the other, whether it is visual art, performing art. So people are more aware of art. I think convincing now would have been much easier than back then. I would have been an artist. Maybe I would have participated as an artist, not as a principal today on the panel, had it been that, yeah. So now it's easier. Minds are changing, slowly, but they're changing.
Just adding to what Praveena just said, so I'm actually an artist first before I became an educator. So I did my BFA and then really got into mainstream education. It was slightly difficult to convince my parents in totality, but it wasn't like, I mean, as the previous panelists were talking about, like if you show the passion and you show what you're doing, then there's nothing to stop. And in fact, eventually the decision for me to move into education was also mine. So I think it's really about what you can push through, but yeah, it's the environment and the kind of environment that you get, which is giving you that mindset that, okay, you can do something. So it's more to that rather than specific to what you want to do, yeah.
So if you're on the other side, and a child is creative, has the creative bent of mind, and you're approached by a parent that they don't want to encourage that, or they don't want to encourage the child's creative abilities. You as a principal or the head of the institutions that you're in, what would be your approach and how would you counsel them? Let's start.
So the idea is creating awareness. So when children come to school, it's not just students that we are teaching. We are continuously educating parents. And as a school principal, I've done that because in our school is, I say, a very art-based school. It leans more towards arts than science and math. And from day one, the child is indulging in all forms of art. And we also open that avenue for parents to come and experience. See, parents, when they were studying, they didn't have that exposure. So when their students, the children are studying, we need to give them that exposure. So I organize art melas where parents are also invited. So they come and they experience art firsthand. So the idea is to educate parents gradually. It will not change overnight, but eventually they come around because they are also seeing the value in art. Imagine 2 years of lockdown without art. Can you imagine having spent 2 years sitting at home in lockdown without any form of art around you? I don't think we would have survived lockdown without art. So people are realizing more and more that art is what makes life worth living. Art makes your life beautiful. It's not just the mundane and the boring. It is the beautiful that you need to look around you. So yes, art is important and we are realizing it more and more.
Tehzeeb, what would be your approach?
So now, with the current scenario, yes, there's a lot of possibilities with art, and it would take some amount of convincing. Some parents still have that traditional mindset that they want their children to pursue science or CA. But with the options, there are a lot of career options now. So yes, it would be a little easier to convince parents. But yes, education is the key. Making them aware of what are the possibilities for their children is the key factor in it.
Kavita.
I think as an educator, you're constantly educating parents, and as school leader, the only thing I think I majorly do is educate parents. And so it's a lot to do with really bringing in these elements in the school environment, because parents at the end of the day have their kids in your schools and they believe in you. So if the school environment encourages all careers, then the parents will start getting into that system and they'll start connecting with it. So it's very important that way. And frankly, I've never had a parent who said that my child is interested in art and I don't want to continue. They've been wanting to know what are the possibilities and what can be done. Because I think as any field, there are challenges and what the students can go into. And I would not say that only for arts, it could be for any field. So that's where I would come from, that we have to kind of keep building that as educators, as school leaders, a culture of kind of appreciating every element of the arts along with other subjects. And that's the way it is. It's a slow process, but it'll work, yeah.
What do you see is the role of technology in helping such young talent to grow? Do you feel it is required, or do you feel the basic art is very important, the foundation, and the rest they can take it later on after their formative education? Or do you feel that technology has to be included in their earlier years of education?
So, as part of our school curriculum, we invite a lot of illustrators to our school. So, Abhijit sitting here has been in our school for a lot of sessions, a lot of other illustrators, and what they tell my students, because students these days are in a hurry to become an expert. They don't realize that, so every illustrator who comes to my school has told children very clearly that 20 years of paper illustration, only then can you jump to animation. At least that basic foundation has to be there. Because we see an illustrator or animator, but we don't know the number of years that they have put in behind. There's a lot of hard work, a lot of practice required. So initially the basic foundation from what I got from all the illustrators is, they need to have a solid foundation, a lot of practice, only then you move on to something which is quick and faster. But certainly it runs simultaneously. I won't say that you just do this and don't do that. Both simultaneously, but yes, practice is what is required. If you want to become an expert, minimum 10 years. Minimum 10 years.
Tehzeeb, for sure, I know that you don't encourage technology for the kids. So what is your approach to it, and how convincing you are in making the students, keeping them away from technology? Because that's the easiest thing for them to get hooked to when they are using art. So what are your efforts towards the direction, and how do you manage to control their...
So, children these days are born with computers and phones, so they anyway have access. They don't need to be taught technology. They're just very adept at it. So what we need to give children, like Parveen said, is the foundation. The foundation is most important. Technology can come later, at a much later stage, according to me, because, softwares and apps and, the tutorials are available online. Children can easily pick up all these things online. What they can't learn is what we have to teach them. What is not available on the internet is what should start at an early age. It cannot start, technology can wait, according to me.
Kavita, if you have to add to that.
I have a mixed opinion. I feel children are, as Tehzeeb said, they're born in an environment where they grow with technology. So there's no harm in exposing them, but I think bringing that balance is very important. Because when the child knows that I can create this online, however, to do that, I have to make a sketch. So I'll give you an example of what I really have worked with our students, with very young students, is a design cycle. So they all know that when you have to design or create anything, they have to, of course, have a problem or a task to do. Then they have to plan it. Then they have to kind of figure out how, and then reach the stage of creation, and then really figuring out if it's working or not working. So, there are stages, and at every stage there's a lot of thinking involved. So in the planning stage, you would engage kids in, go look for what is already been done, what can you do more. Creativity comes from experience and what you've been exposed to. So I think technology today gives so much of exposure. I can show kids what is being done in the world. I can show them what other kids in the world are doing. I can make them connect with other kids in the world to work together with them. Those are great opportunities for them. And when they realize it, and the best part is they come back full circle and they realize it, and I tell you that, I want to do this basics. I'll be doing the drawing to make, something like that, which is great because if the realization comes from the child, it's way better than us telling them that this is what you should do first. So having that approach has helped me in terms of getting kids to, use technology in the best way possible, and at the same time appreciate the basics and get on with the foundations. Because not all kids, frankly, I've taught art for so many years, and I know that there are a lot of kids who are creative, but they just don't have it in them to draw. I've had a student who, I tried doing still life with him, I remember in grade 9, and what he made was like totally off. He took up art till grade 12, and now he's actually, I think, working with one of the, he's into film and photography, and he's working in a design studio, I think. But the thing is that encouragement was required. I never forced that child to draw or do basics. We got on to him working on his photography. We got on to him working on learning Photoshop to kind of engage that. So you have to really find what the child can do, because there was capacity. If I had stopped that child from not being able to draw at that age, I would have not seen a great filmmaker today, because he's moving towards being able to make a film. So he went to a college in Goa, I think one school, to study photography, and now is, I think, pursuing the same somewhere. I think that says a lot about really figuring the right balance for what the children need, and where you need to find what they can do and what they can't do, and accept it. That's important.
But taking a cue from that, if you see, usually in schools, you have some students who are very good at sports, and the school takes extra efforts to help them on sports and try to give them extra classes or try to give them encouragement. Do we have something in the schools where if you find creative people, we do the same thing to them?
So first of all, I feel don't be in a hurry to categorize which child is good at what early on. Because I feel schooling is a platform where you are still discovering your talents. I can't say that a child who's in grade 5 is already like very talented, very good. So we give a very equal platform to all children to discover their talents. Yes, we do spot talent at an early age, and we do realize that this child may become very good. So, for example, we have art mela in our school where children participate. We take them to art galleries, because a lot of times we realize unless and until they go to places, see art, they will not see value. So we connect with art galleries in Mumbai like Turk and so many other art galleries. They learn to appreciate art. We call a lot of resource people to school because we have an image of an artist. So to break that image, they need to interact with people from the media, people from art, people from performing arts, one-on-one, and ask questions. So they get this opportunity, they have some queries, they clarify that, and then they start thinking whether this is the line that I want to take up. So exposure is extremely important. Being patient with them, extremely important. Don't be in a hurry to label them that this child is good, this child is not good. Because I believe all children do not develop at the same pace. Some are slow bloomers. Wait, what's the hurry? And just keep giving them exposure, opportunities. I say equal opportunities to all children, and that should work.
So if I have to add up to the same question, what age would you feel is the right time to have serious art education to be introduced in school curriculum?
From birth. There is no age. As soon as a child can sit up, start giving them art. I'm giving you an example of my two daughters. So my daughter would draw on the edges of vessels, and today she is becoming an architect. They need material, they need choices. So our job as educators and parents is to provide them materials, give them opportunities, and give them choice. So what happens most often, schools will provide a lot of material, big art room, no choice. Draw what the teacher is asking them to draw. I want to ask one question to the audience. How many of you, when you were in school, drew the morning scene? Raise your hand. Morning scene. Every time this works. And I can tell you what you drew. You drew mountains, identical symmetrical mountain with ruler, and a sun rising and crows flying. Works. Everybody, I don't know what is this. Is it about the Indian education system? So we had the material, but we did not have a choice. We were not given the choice to create what we want to create. We need to give them choice and trust children's creativity. Children are born creative. Just give them the material, space, opportunities and choice, and they will do wonders. And many a times we don't trust them. We give them material, but we want to hover around and see what they're doing. Trust them. They are the most original, creative human beings. We get spoiled as we grow along. Our education spoils us because then we start putting ourselves in boxes. Children are pure, imaginative, creative. Give them all this and they'll do well. Early as you can.
Fantastic. Tehzeeb, you
Absolutely agree.
you employ a lot of techniques, various techniques of animation, non-technology related. So what are the techniques what are the various types that you use?
So right from hand-drawn to clay to cutout to sand to paint, everything, direct on film. We've done all techniques in animation. And I think, the tools change. I mean, the artist can create on a computer or with a brush or with sand so the ones who feel like do not want to draw, they have the option to create with other material. But I think that physical touch is important at a young age, when they touch and feel and create with their hands. And they use their mind, and when they go on to the software and then they're dependent and they feel some way that the software will do half their work, they're looking for the easy way out. That's why my suggestion is always keep technology for a later stage. In the initial formative years, I think it's very important to let children touch and feel and create with their hands. It also improves their hand-eye coordination, their motor skills. A lot of benefits when children create with their hands. So there's no fixed medium, but we expose them to everything. The key is let them try, fail, try again, test out, and that's how they learn eventually.
Very true. Kavita, since you already told that technology also is important and it's better that they also expose to technology, a little away thought from what she's telling. So do you feel that technology has to be introduced in the schools, or school level they should only be exposed to art techniques and the technology can be included later?
I think kids already know it. You don't need to tell them. Tehzeeb did a workshop with my students now. They already figured, and in fact, she gave them some examples of what apps they could use, and they went on trying it. Not that they did not do what she was teaching, but they also did that. So I think it's totally fine, because as Parveen was also saying, that it's about exposure and choices. So then children are able to choose and make their choices. But having said that, having technology doesn't negate hands-on. Hands-on is very important. You don't take that away from the child. You bring both together and create a balance for them. So there are ways where technology makes things so much easier. In the pandemic, I could get Tehzeeb do a workshop for my students. And she had wonderful video tutorials that she had made for them, which they could even use later. Whereas typically earlier when we worked together, she would always come to school and teach kids. So that saves a lot of time. So it all goes to technology, I think. So there is so much more we can work on. So exposing children, no harm. It's how you go about it. Like, I introduced my son to Scratch when he was 4-year-old. It's not that he stopped drawing. In fact, when he was 4, he wanted to draw a car, and I was busy, and he came to me, "Can you help me draw a car?" I said, "No, I can't. I mean, I'm busy right now." And he went on to YouTube and found how to draw a car and drew a car. And I thought that was great, because at least he's still drawing. And at least there is facility for them to be able to do things which otherwise he would have just sat and waited for mom to come. And then I would have taught him only the car I know. Now he's learned how to draw different types of cars because he's got different people who could teach him. So that's what technology does.
So this question is to all the three of you. Now, if you're allowed to make some changes, and your changes are taken in the National Education Policy regarding the art and art education, so what would be the changes that you'd suggest, and what will be your, probably, how would you convince it to be changed?
National Education Policy is very promising. Suddenly, the focus is on art, which should have been long back, better late than never. So art integration is a major thing. Now they want us to integrate art in all the subjects which good schools were any which ways doing. Now they're making it mandatory, which is a good thing. Another important aspect of national education policies, they want to keep all the local arts alive. So they want schools to integrate local art, called local artisans, which is a very, very good move. Invite artists for residence and then have them demonstrate their art. So they are now, the idea of local art, reviving local art is part of the national, education policy, which is very, very promising. Also, they are coming up with courses like archaeology, museum administration, art administration, which is something new. So the trend is moving towards saving the indigenous art, also bringing art closer to life, making art compulsory part of the curriculum so that parents also don't have choice. Parents who are not convinced have no choice but to follow, and hopefully we'll see many more creative students after some years of schooling. So it's promising, but how it is going to be implemented is the question.
Do you want to suggest any more changes to that? Do you feel something is missing in that?
Art, see, in my school, art is like how we breathe and sleep and eat. It's a very essential component of life. And I think every child should be given exposure to art. It should not be only those elite schools. It should not be only those who can afford. Art should be for every child. Why should anybody be left behind? So no child left behind for art. That's my call.
Fantastic, Parveen. That's such.
I
I completely agree with Parveen. The education policy does look promising, and there's a lot of emphasis on art integration, experiential learning. So all those aspects, I think, will make learning and education far more enjoyable for children, unlike what it was till now, where it was a lot of rote learning and, so I think it all looks very nice on paper, and the implementation is the key, and I hope it is implemented in all schools, and because other than a few handful of schools that I know in Mumbai, and Mumbai being the metropolitan city, so I don't know how it is in the smaller cities, and in Mumbai, there are very few schools that focus a lot on art. Art is always like, science and maths is given far more importance. A lot of times, the teacher has to complete a maths portion and very conveniently takes over the art period. I think it's always like that, right? So it's always been like that, and it's been there like that since my childhood, my son's childhood. Now my son is grown up. So I'm very happy to see that it's all there in the policy. But
the situation that you told, is it going to change, or when do you see it changing? That art is not given that same prominence?
It seems like it is going to be. So it is there in the education policy that now they're going to introduce more of art. Like she said, a lot of Indian art, folk art will be introduced, and children will be exposed to that. But we don't know how soon it will be implemented and how well it will be implemented. Also, the teachers will be we need to have good teachers to kind of take this forward.
Do you want to add something on that, Kavita?
Yeah, I think education policy is a beautiful vision. And as all visions, it always boils down to ground level. So implementation is key. And that's where we need to kind of really see how it is implemented, what is being done in terms of training the teachers, and what is being done, like I've planned art curriculums. I've planned, and it's tricky, right? When technology, tech art comes in, I had to figure out what I need to remove. One of the things that is very important that as educators we need to ask is when we keep adding things for kids in our curriculum, okay, let's add this is new, this is coding has come in, let's add this, NEP is saying technology, let's add this. What schools need to think of is, what are we removing? Because we are just putting so much onto the kids that there is no space for them to explore and succeed. So they will not succeed till they have the space to explore and learn. So I think that is very important, those decisions that the schools will have to make. or the decisions that the NEP will help the schools make, the designing of the programs and its implementation is key to it. So I think those are very, as a vision is a great vision, and I think it's really the next steps to the vision that's very important, how it moves on.
Aren't they planning to cut down the content? That's what I read somewhere.
I'm not.
Okay. No, isn't it? They're cutting.
I like listening to her, I got an idea. See, no matter how full your stomach is, there is always place for dessert. Agree? Art should be like that. No matter how crowded your curriculum is, there should always be place for art.
What I've heard is they're going to cut down the content. They're going to reduce the content of all the subjects, and they're going to make it far more flexible.
They're saying that, but
Yeah. Yeah, so we
Art
don't
is
know.
the dessert.
We don't know what is in store for us, but it seems positive.
Great. So I think we are reaching the end of the session. I think we're time out, but I'd just like to add to all the wonderful ladies who just shared their views and insights that I've seen the industry evolve for the last 25 years. So from being an educator since the mid-90s, where parents didn't want the children to do art. I mean, like, back in, say, Bangalore, where I come from, they used to say, I mean, like, I don't want to spend money on teaching you how to draw or how to draw cartoons. So today, which my colleagues in the audience also would agree that there has come a day when I see parents coming with their kids as young as 7th standard, 8th standard, and they say that my kid doesn't want to study anything else apart from animation. I don't mind sacrificing his usual normal academic education for him to pursue a career in animation. And that, I think, is a winner for all the artists, all the educators and the studios here, that we are moving in the right direction. So with that, I would like to end the session, and I would like to just throw it open for 1 or 2 questions max. We're already time out. So if anybody has a question, quick question, yeah.
In school, only 9th standard is being, drawing is being there. In some school, I'm not talking about international schools. International school platform is being a totally different. And if drawing teacher and social science teacher come up to the studios or an institute, what software they should be know to make their subject interesting, and how they can work as a team to understand the whole subjects more easily, especially the history and the drawing.
How many questions in a question? I mean, totally we'll have to come from the first now.
So again, I would like to respond to this. No, I understood your question. I'm a teacher, no?
Even I taught in Panjgani.
Yeah, so please understand, in India we have all kinds of schools and we have all kinds of teachers. So it depends on what kind of school. Like we say, teachers need to get themselves trained, even artists need to get themselves trained. Schools need to have very good budget for training. That training budget should not be for arts and science teachers, it should also be for art teachers. So my school art teachers attend conferences for art, and they're also updating themselves based on what children want to learn. So recently my art teacher did a animation workshop. He teaches them stop motion animation because kids are demanding. Since children are demanding, you need to upgrade yourself. So art teachers are also upgrading yourself. So the onus is not just on school, the onus is also on you as an artist. आपको एक बार डिग्री मिल गया वो लेकर आप बैठ नहीं सकते हो. आपको अपने आप को अपग्रेड करना है. So my teacher is upgrading himself with all these things because kids are demanding it.
सबकी मानसिकता वैसी नहीं होती ना. पगार मिलता है तो ठीक है, नहीं मिलता तो क्या करें?
नहीं, ऐसा माइंडसेट में तो आप कहीं पे भी नहीं काम कर सकते हो. And it is not about international school or CBSE school. Mine is a CBSE school. It doesn't matter which board you are. If you want to do good work, board, salary, all that does not matter. I would suggest to all the artists here, forget about what's happening around you. You are an artist, you are passionate about art, you want to teach art, do your best. Rest everything will fall in place.
Did you answer all the questions? No. Okay, fine. Thanks a lot, ladies. Thanks a lot for sparing your time coming here and being a part of this event. I think hats off to Anil and his entire team and Animation Express and EduSpark that such a kind of session was put together. This is the need of the art, because we as educationists in whatever schools that we run back in our home city, we face this trouble day in, day out, where people come in to join their children, they don't know what to do. So I think this kind of sessions where people know what to do in their early formative years will throw a lot of light on the parents also. Thanks a lot once again. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot to the panelists for such an amazing session. The new education policy is a welcome change. I would now like to call upon Mr. Neeraj Vikram, a writer, producer who has written Motu Patlu with more than 1,000 episodes and also produced Daduju, Ting Tong and the Pandavas. Can we have the token of appreciation over here?